Hello, my name is Jeff. This is a retired farm boy channel where I discuss all things retirement, whether that be planning for retirement or also living in retirement. So today's video is to talk about getting comfortable in retirement. And I can honestly say there is something to that. You have to sort of learn how to be retired. Just like learning a job, it takes a little while to get comfortable at it, and you wake up one day and it's like, man, nothing to this. But your first few days, you're probably scared to death, wondering if you're going to be able to do it. I'm not saying I'm scared to death going into retirement, but it does take a little effort to get used to it. And it does take a little time to get over some of the anxieties associated with retiring. So I wanted to bring out today the bullet points that I put together concerning how I have changed and what I've done to get myself comfortable in retirement. So let me describe a little bit about myself going into this video for those of you that are new to the channel. I retired about a year and a half ago. My wife is still working at this point. She's going to work for a couple more years. So we've been able to ease into it, I guess, one at a time here a little bit. So I sort of feel like I'm retired, no doubt, but I haven't really reached that stage of retirement where my wife and I are both retired and we're living on Social Security and the savings that we've put together. So that's sort of the situation I'm in. So the first bullet point that I want to discuss today is one that I'm proud to say that I feel like I did a good job in getting myself ready for retirement. I think that's something that everybody needs to think about hard, is making sure that you know that you're ready for retirement. And what's the thing about retirement? Planning. So I want to break it out into three different categories that I want to speak to. So first one is financially. Obviously, that's one that we're all worried about a little bit. Do we have enough money to retire? So also what goes into that is making sure that your expenses are a low point. Or they're going to be very soon after you retire. So my wife and I, for example, went into this saying we wanted to be debt free. So we were able to pay off our mortgage. We haven't gotten any debt at all going into retirement. And that's been a real blessing in helping the retirement be successful. So I want to talk about mentally. Now, this is an aspect that it's hard to prepare for, or it was for me to think about it. But a few things that I did to help myself mentally and my wife is, this one sort of sounds financial, but it's really more mental. And that is, we did a dry run for about 2 or 3 months before I retired to ensure, in our case, that we were going to be able to live off of my wife's salary until she retires. So that was something that was very important for us to make sure that we could do it. And believe me, it gives you a real good feeling going into retirement that you're going to be okay. Now, you're still a little uneasy and such, but doing that dry run and making sure that the way that you plan your retirement to be is going to work is very important. So make sure you budget, make sure you tie things down. My wife and I were not big on keeping a real strict budget. We pretty much paid all the expenses that we had and put all the money into the savings that we'd planned on putting in there. And then anything that was left over, for the most part, we didn't really put a pencil to that amount of money. It was sort of like, we have it for what we need, what we want to use it for. So when you retire, I think you have to be a little more stringent about that, and just know that going in that, you need to have a plan around a budget in some kind of way. You don't have to get down to the penny. We still do not do that, but we do break it down a little bit more now than we did prior to retiring. So something else we did from a mental aspect is we planned some activities, vacation, going into retirement, something that we can look forward to sort of get ourselves ready and ready for the retirement aspect of it all. So socially, that's another big one when it comes to what you'll hear people say is trying to replace those people that all the acquaintances and friends and coworkers that you work with, and then going from all of that one day to when you retire, there may not be anybody around but you and your wife. That's something that we tried to plan for as best we could. A couple things that I can point out that I did is I joined the gym right after I retired. And I know joining the gym doesn't sound like a social aspect, but it can be. And I've tried to turn it into that. That's really where I socialize and I'm around people more than anywhere, except for church, obviously. So I'm able to stretch myself a little bit and reach out and meet new people. Sort of like taking a new job. You don't know anybody, and you make friends over time, and that's sort of the way it's been for me with the gym. I've got to reach out. I've actually pushed myself a little bit more. I'm an introvert by nature, and it's a little harder for me to reach out to people than maybe for some, but I've really pushed myself in that regard, and I can say it's definitely really made me feel a lot different about myself as much as anything. And I hope that, it also, I've added a little bit of something to somebody else's life as well doing that. So those are the three things I got classified as falling under planning for retirement, making sure that you're there and get yourself ready. The next bullet I want to talk about is one that is difficult to get over, at least it was for me. I think I may need to go back to work thinking that I had for a long time. It seems like it's a struggle for a lot of people, according to articles, and it's something that they tell you to be prepared for. And it does take a little time. And now going back to work, it may not mean full time. It may be part-time, it may be consulting, but it took me a long time. I'm going to throw it out there and say it took me almost a year to get past that point of, looking at emails for job opportunities, listening to people call me and ask me if I wanted a job, and discussing opportunities, whether that be, like I mentioned, full-time, part-time, or consulting. I didn't think that that was something that would bother me. I thought when I'm done, I'm done. But it stays with you. And I don't even want to go back to work. And hoping that I won't have to. So glad to be in that state. So another one that's somewhat work-related, thinking about it versus the way you think about it in retirement, is missing goals is not near as stressful now as it was when you worked. So you know how it is when you work. I was one of them that always had a to-do list, and still do even in retirement. But the to-do list is totally different. The to-do list when you're working, most of the time, had a date associated with it as when you needed to get it done by. In retirement, those to-do tasks, they don't necessarily have to have a date behind them. And so there's very little stress because of that. It's still worrisome, obviously, if you have something on your list for too long, at least for me. But, some things I've completely taken off my list too, because it's like, I don't want to do that anymore. So the next bullet is, I've got the freedom to do whatever I want, within reason, of course. Nobody can really do whatever they want anytime they want, but you can get pretty close to it. I know when I first retired, I didn't know what to do with myself a lot of days. I probably was bored to some extent, and felt like I needed to be doing something all the time. And now into retirement a little bit, I don't have that anxiety, number one. But I also have figured out how to relax a little bit more. I go out onto a porch and sit that we've got on one of our farm buildings, and sometimes I just sit there and watch the traffic go by, and it's so peaceful. It's something that I never would have thought about doing and didn't do a lot of when I first retired. Although I had as much time then, probably more time, because I found things to fill up my life, it seems like, in retirement. But it's just a different feeling now, because I think I finally have fell into that comfort zone of retirement to where, you totally feel like you're doing what you need to be doing right now. So next bullet point I want to talk about is time to accomplish bucket list items. So, like I said, I've been retired for a year and a half, and looking back on that year and a half, I've actually been able to do quite a few things that I always wanted to do. One is to go on an Alaskan cruise. That was something that my wife and I always wanted to do for years, and never found the time to do it. So that was something that we planned before I retired. We set that up and had something to look forward to getting into retirement. Another thing on my bucket list that I was able to accomplish was kayaking the Mississippi River. Well, at least the first 500 miles of it. It took me 19 days to do it, and it was very hard. I'm going to put together a video of that trip and some of the highlights of it soon, so please be looking forward to that. But that was another one that was a great thing that I've been able to accomplish. So another bullet point is tackling some new tasks in life, or in a couple of cases for me is trying to get better and complete something that I've already started. So first one I'll talk about is golf. So through the years, I've never really been serious about golf. Probably won't ever be real serious or very good either. I always thought that when I retired, I would probably enjoy golf a lot more. I can't say that I played it as much as I thought I would, but I did make an investment. And so I bought a new set of golf clubs, and I got me a net that I can hit golf balls into. So I've got a way for me to practice and, feel like I'm hitting the ball a little bit better. I'm never going to be very good at all, but so it's been nice to be able to get into that. Another thing for me is a book. I've been working on a book for about 20 years now. I feel like I've got a good storyline. I actually completed the outline of my book a few months before I retired, planning to start writing the book as soon as I retired. So I have gotten into writing it now. Again, I don't feel like I've accomplished quite as much as I thought I would at this point, but it's been something that's helped me mentally to stay in the game and to, look forward to and to think about and develop something as I go forward. And then, of course, the one I'm doing right now, YouTube. Now, that's one that I would have never thought that I would have wanted to do, is put videos out on social media. But as I started planning for retirement and looking forward to retirement from some of the people that have retired, I started seeing other people's lives and how they're going about it, how their retirement looks like, how it's going to be compared to mine. And it became very intriguing to me. And after I retired, I just kept watching these videos. And Steve's Retirement Corner, Buzz's Retirement Garage, I know I'm missing a bunch. Failure in Retirement. There's a bunch of channels out there that I enjoy watching their videos. They're totally different from me and what I do in a lot of cases, but it's just been intriguing. So I thought maybe some of my videos might be intriguing. I don't know, we'll see. So another bullet, I'm proud now to say that I'm retired as my job status. When I first retired, it was a little funny telling people that you retired and, what do you do during the day? And, I do this and I do a little bit of that. And, it felt a little funny. And honestly, you lose a little bit of your identity, I think, a little bit because of that. But now that I've been in retirement as long as I have, man, I am so proud to tell people I'm retired, because it's a very good thing. It is great. And so definitely something that took me a little time to get used to, but it's pretty daggum good now. I think the last bullet that I want to go over is something that you see a lot of people talk about in videos about retirement, and that is getting used to being around your spouse so much more, and make sure that you're going to be able to handle that, and trying ways to try to cope with that. And so it does sort of shake you up a little bit, some of the things that people say about how difficult that can be. Now, I can say before I retired, my wife and I were best friends. She has been that way almost from the time we were married. We've been best friends. And I can honestly say that since I've retired, I'm around my wife a lot more. She works from home, 80 to 90% of her work week days. And so, I see her all the time. And I can honestly still say that she is still my best friend. So there's hope. There's hope you can get along with your spouse. So going through the video, I hope you got a little bit of knowledge out of it, but also you enjoyed a little bit of it as well. What was that one word that you think that I was talking about up front that is key to retirement? It's planning. So the key to retirement to me, if you had to sum up what retirement was about, it's about planning. Everybody's retirement is going to be different. Everyone's is unique. That's fine. That's the way it's going to be, and that's the way maybe it should be. So there's all kinds of parameters around retirement that people try to put on it. Being debt-free for my wife and I was just critical. We would not have retired if we were not debt-free yet. But that don't necessarily have to be that way for you. I think it's a good thing to strive for, and everybody wants to be and eventually will be. But it's not something that's an absolute. And I think that's the key to retirement. That whole planning thing is you don't have to have it a certain way. You need to have it your way. So in closing, until next time, retirement is great.